live. We are live with another episode of the Blue Crocus Experience. And today I've got Jordan Jamison on, someone that I met through university. And both of us we were just chatting off of air. Both of us kind of jumped and went into the entrepreneurial world. So Jordan, awesome to have you here. If you want to give us a quick background on who you are, where you came from, and we'll just roll with that.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me on, Lewis. I've followed quite a few of your podcasts, and we were just talking about how I was catching up on your most recent just this morning. So my name is Jordan. I'm the owner and operations manager, or I'm one of the owners and the operations manager at Red Rock Adventure and Shipyard Cafe. We are a tourism company that offers unique experiences in day and multi-day adventure, travel trade, wilderness catering, and experiential education. We're based out of St. Martin's, and we operate all over New Brunswick, mostly southern New Brunswick, as well as the Fundy Isles, but we've been known to go up north a little bit and east as well.
Really? Okay, so there's some stuff there that I didn't even know, so we can dive into some of that.
Yeah, sure.
That's exciting. So just to recap, and we'll kind of let people in on the conversation we were having before, but we met, we kind of figured it out. It would have been in 2014 because you were involved in Frosh Week as well, right? Yeah,
I was fairly involved in the engineering scene, whether it was through EUS or I did chair one of the Atlantic engineering competition one year, the robotics competition. I think I was there. I think I was there more for the events than I was the learning. Looking back, but it would have been. I probably would have met you at Frosh, I think, and I think I left the whole engineering scene, school and job around 2016. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was 2016. Yeah.
So we both met at the University of New Brunswick, and Frosh Week, for those that don't know, is like the freshman kickoff, getting everybody excited about their first year of university. So I was a mature student, and you were just kind of wrapping up your
maturer student.
Yeah, I was older. I was older. Yeah. That's the term they use on paper anyway. I was older than most of the first years, and I like to call myself mature, but we'll let the events tell the story for themselves.
It's funny you mentioned that because I came in late as well. I came in at 22. I think I started engineering because I did arts before that. Yeah. And kudos to all the 18-year-olds who start out in engineering as their first year, because I don't think I was focused enough. I needed a couple of years to figure out what I was doing and how to focus and how to work hard in order to be in that place, for sure.
Yeah, looking back, I've had conversations with some of my buddies from school, and it's like, man, like if I went back through school now, my work ethic is just like, if this was university, this is where I am now.
Yeah.
And this is where I want to go or need to go, right? So, so that I think I went to all those events that you went to. I did compete in the Atlantic engineering competition, loved that, had a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And I was involved in the robotics. I didn't actually compete, but there's some good events. And I actually, I haven't talked to a lot of the current students, but not being able to do events like that this past year, just brutal.
Yeah, I think that was a big break for a lot of people. I think a lot of people found their place in the course that way. I remember people who I worked with a couple years after, maybe even before you came, where that's kind of where they discovered exactly their spot in engineering and who they were going to be around and what their goals were going to be extracurricularly, compared to like just the grind that you usually are involved in. So it really is too bad that they couldn't do stuff like that this year. I really hope that they can pick it back up, because those were always really fun, cool events to see and be part of.
Were you the organization team when I forget her name, but it was an astronaut that came down and judged?
Yeah, that's the one I chaired. That was cool. That was really cool. That was fun.
That was so cool. I remember our rover. We were the first ones out, and man, oh man, were we kicking ourselves for not going second? Because we basically taught everybody the course and got 3/4 of the way through it. And
Oh, I can't remember her name, and that's gonna bother, because later tonight it'll come to me. But she was amazing. She came all the way from Montreal just to be the speaker and judge at that competition. She was one of the head engineers at the Rover program for the CSA. And that was awesome. I think we've since had people, I know personally of 2 competitors who have gone on to go to masters in space engineering since that competition. And I know for sure one of them, that was like since day one of engineering, that's what he was doing anyway. And then that was just a big day for him. And then one of them, I think, like, met her and I think kept going on with that kind of stuff. So
I'm thinking of a couple too. I'm thinking of Andreas, who I think is working in a startup.
Yeah, that's one of them. But I think he was day one. I think day one engineering. I think he was going space all the way.
Yeah. No, it was an incredible experience, and it kind of those sort of events, speak to the networking that now I love on a whole different level, because networking is what builds both of our businesses, I would say.
Yeah, and even though my current business has nothing to do really with engineering, I think it was those events, and it was just the work in general in engineering and basically the whole buckle down and work hard attitude that allows me to do what I do now. I always credit those professors and those courses with shaping what I do now and my ability to do things now, because without those years, I probably wouldn't be able to move forward with as much drive as I'd like to think that I have, at least, without those times, without those people, without those events and stuff like that. So it really is, I mean, if not for the actual hard skills that you learn, it's the soft skills that you learn there that is definitely can project people into success in whatever they're looking to do. Yeah,
it's huge. So 2016, you kind of we were talking earlier as well. I keep alluding to it. We covered some good ground before we jumped on, so I want to kind of bring that back up. But you kind of decided, hey, I don't love what I'm doing. I don't love designing HVAC systems, and you kind of had other pieces lined up in your life, and you're like, okay, this is my shot. I've got to take it, right?
Yeah, well, coming out of the program, already a mature student, having a long-term partner, living in New Brunswick, more specifically St. John, which is where I want to be, St. John, Quispam. Everything else was kind of lining up, and then I had a decision to make that was kind of like, okay, is this what I'm going to do the rest of my life, or am I going to make that final piece chasing something a lot more fulfilling, more happiness than I am, for example, the paycheck, which, I mean, the company I worked for was fantastic. I would recommend that company to anyone if they ever asked. And I everyone there was phenomenal, but it was just more of a personal thing where it's just like, do I want this? Do I want to give this a real go, or do I want to start working towards what I want to do for the rest of my life? And my now wife at the time was saying, we'll give it 5 years, give it a shot. You work hard to get there. Why would you kind of waste those years? And just like I mentioned, I don't see them as a waste. Those are skills that I'm going to carry through the rest of my life, even. But it was kind of just, I didn't have, a house or kids or anything like that. So I was just kind of like, okay, I have an opportunity to almost not start fresh, but start from square one and with a really strong first step. And I had been working with Red Rock Adventure as a climbing guide, and I had done a couple other things with them. And and I was running a climbing wall in Fredericton with them and doing lessons and courses. And they had an opportunity come up to say, listen, we're looking for an operations manager. We're doing a lot more. We're growing. And kind of when I looked into the company and looked into the people working there, it was a really cool opportunity for me to move into an industry that I had done before. I actually started in the tourism industry in 2006 or 2007 was kind of my first time working at a tourism company, and then had a couple opportunities since that point till now where I was just like, okay, I can't remember what I wanted to be when I was really young, but I'm sure it was something like a professional mountaineer or outdoors person. But of course your parents are never like, you can't be a professional person. How do you do that? How do you do that? And it's just like, okay, but this is what I love, and I've got a really cool opportunity to put a ton of effort in, make it a career, and actually turn it into something really cool and grow it. And fortunately, the two owners at the time, now there's three including me, really gave me an opportunity to grow the company in a direction with them. They didn't I didn't go in and they didn't kind of throttle anything that I wanted to bring to the table in any way. And that's how I was able to start to move into an ownership position, was the fact that I kind of integrated myself as part of the ownership team without being an owner until this past year that I actually bought into that side. Now own a substantial chunk of the company, and we're just kind of continuing with growth.
That's
so
awesome.
move, yeah, and it's been a really cool journey because we've moved into some stuff that was not even an idea when I started, and now we're doing some really cool culinary stuff. Me and one of the other business partners just moved into consulting this off season. So we're now consulting with other operators and actually towns and stuff for risk management planning. So we evaluate the risks, build everything from their emergency response plans, crisis management plans, how to communicate all that, how to manage that, and building all of the risk management plans for them, and working with them. And so we've got some contracts through that, and it's been a really cool journey to see how it moves, how it grows, and being part of that whole thing has been really special. So it's been fun.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's dive back to what is Red Rock Adventures? What obviously when you started it sounds like it had a different kind of vision than what it does now. So bring us up to speed on kind of where it was when you started, what you guys were doing, and how it's morphed. Because I've seen some pretty crazy, like you said, culinary adventures that are just out in the middle of nowhere. So pull back the curtain a bit on that for us.
So when I started, they were doing day adventures and multi-day adventures. And day adventures range from anywhere from like a kayak on the Bay of Fundy to a hike to we have it would be a Zodiac, so what you see Coast Guard use, but using that for scenery tours along the sea cliffs on the Bay of Fundy, multi-day stuff. So we do fully supported multi-day Fundy footpath adventures, and fully supported is really cool. It totally blew my mind when I was learning about it. Was you have a couple guides go in with a group of people, they go on the Fundy footpath, and then a support team from Red Rock Adventure goes in ahead of them, sets up camp, drops fresh food, and then gets out of there before the group comes in.
Cool.
So when you as a guest comes in with your tent is set up, there's fresh food there, your guides cook. I think your first night on the Fundy footpath with us, you're having like maple plank salmon and fresh veggies over the fire. And then the next day you wake up, leave camp, support team goes in, breaks everything down, behind the scenes in back roads, moves to the next camp that you're going to, resets up your tent, drops new food. So maybe your second night is, blueberry pork loin or something else really cool. So when you arrive, fresh, new, best campsites, because we're there nice and early. And that just goes on along the Fundy footpath until your last day. When you come out of there, have like a lobster boil, maybe a local brew, local craft brew, and that's your trip. And it's really fantastic for people because it makes the Fundy footpath super accessible. Yeah. And for example, if you're coming internationally, you don't have to worry about your sleeping bag or a ton of gear or your tent and everything, because we have that for you. True, so you're actually able to travel and do these things. Or, it's more accessible for people who don't necessarily want to carry 60 pounds of weight, because you're just carrying your sleeping bag and some personal items. And then we do the rest.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh,
that's
awesome.
So cool.
And
bring people up to speed on what the Fundy footpath is, because I believe I did a portion of it. It's around 70 kilometers.
Yeah, with all the access, it gets closer to around 60 kilometers.
Okay.
And it's a coastal hike that takes place. Part of it is in the Fundy Trail Parkway, and part of it is in the Fundy National Park. And it follows along old Appalachian topography. So when the Appalachian Mountains fell into the Bay of Fundy, when it split from Nova Scotia, you could probably do a whole hour on the geography of this area. There's now a nice, amazing, world-class hiking trail along there. And it's we've had people do that one, think they can do it in a day. We've had people do it in a day, run it. We've had people, I've met people who have run it in less than 24 hours. People use it to train for the PCT or the Appalachian Trail.
Okay.
It's an amazing scenic trail that it takes you along the coast of the Bay of Fundy on the New Brunswick side.
Awesome. Yeah, because I think I believe I'm just going back in my mind. I believe we did most of it, and there's some pretty steep descents and
Oh
ascents, and
yeah,
then there's a river
yeah.
crossing, and like it's got everything you want out of a trail.
Oh yeah, and sometimes I think the distance throws people. So like 60 kilometers, some people run that but it really is Appalachian Mountain topography. So there is some steep ups and steep downs, and yeah, so we like to make that accessible for people. So we've been doing that. Travel trade is a big one, and travel trade is a really interesting business that I've been continuously learning more and more about over the years. And that's, for example, like we work with a company in the States. They have a client base. We sell that company trips. They sell it to their client base, and that client base is sent to us. So it's almost like instead of outbound, it's all inbound travelers. And they have everything from whether they're doing the Fundy footpath to we do like a 9-day, in to in, all through southern New Brunswick. One day you're kayaking on the Fundy with us. The next you're whale watching in St. Andrews. And the next you're at the Roosevelt Cottages International Park on Campobello Island. Yeah. And they get just the full history. And that is just a really cool, fun, easygoing trip that our guides go on to take people on, and that's really cool.
So you get to see a side of New Brunswick that most people wouldn't see at all ever.
I fortunately I get to see a lot of really cool stuff that people have no idea is in their own backyards, and it is sometimes it is a real shame that they don't know, but sometimes I get to speak to people like you and talk about it and get super excited about it, and then want to talk more and more, and then get people really interested in the province. I wasn't born and bred in New Brunswick. I came to New Brunswick from Ontario when I was 14. Okay. So I when I came, I was not tired of it. I love it. I love all the green. I love all the forest and the topography and everything about New Brunswick. So I'm still, after all these years, pretty, super psyched on the province, and I don't see myself leaving anytime soon.
That's awesome. So yeah. I'm just gonna stop you there. First of all, you're making me hungry with those blueberry and lobster and all that. That sounds amazing. And secondly, it sounds like all of this is like a crazy logistical, organization. Like most of the work that you're doing in the background is just making sure that everything goes off without a hitch. Is that the bulk of what you guys are trying to do?
That's really accurate. We certainly challenge ourselves logistically. I would love to, sit back and just run kayak tours and stuff like that, but it's kind of the reason I came into the business kind of extends through this company as well, where it's just like we're looking for the next fun thing to do. Really cool. How can we not so much impress people, but how can we challenge ourselves while being impressive and still within our wheelhouse? Maybe push that bubble a little, scare ourselves a little into being better. But yeah, logistically, it's pretty, it can be pretty challenging. 2019, we started doing this Savor the Sea Caves, an ocean floor dining experience. And so that was probably the most logistically challenging thing I've ever done. And that was cool because we had
people... caught my attention with what you guys were doing was like, it's crazy. I mean, you're going to go into telling people what it is, but it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And now we're doing it again this year. We had to skip 2020, unfortunately, but for obvious reasons. But we're moving again in 2021 into doing this experience, and it is nuts. Like, I know, just thinking about it, I'm like, okay, like now I have to get myself mentally prepared to do this in July. And
so what is it? What is
so
it?
Savor the Sea Caves is a progressive dining experience along the ocean floor at the St. Martin's Sea Caves. And what makes this special is us having the highest tides in the world in the Bay of Fundy. As the water level, I'll do this maybe. As the water level lowers in these sea caves, we have diners go in and go cave to cave. There's 3. Doing dining experiences, so appetizers paired with a certain drink, until they wind up in the largest and last of the 3 caves, where we had a 24-foot handmade cedar table with the kilted chef, Chef Alain Basset, who's the Atlantic Canadian culinary ambassador, which is really cool. He travels or was traveling all over the world promoting Atlantic Canadian culinary experiences. And we have this huge dinner on the ocean floor, and then guide the guests out as the water reaches its lowest point and then starts immediately to rise again. We come out of these caves, and then from the beach there, move back to the Red Rock Adventure headquarters for a coffee at our cafe. And that 3.5 hour, I think it's about 3.5, almost 4 hour experience for the guests is a 12 to 14 hour logistical challenge for us, because we have to get all the gear in at high tide, get it all on this beach in this large cave, or rappel down from the cliffside. We use both methods.
Wow.
And then as the tide goes out, get everything ready, set everything up on the ocean floor, unbeknownst to the guests, and then have their experience, and then get everything moved back up the beach because the water's coming in, and it's fast. It moves in our area. It can move upwards of 25 feet in 6 hours and 15 minutes. Wow. So that works out, about 4 feet every 15 minutes or something like that on certain days. It's quick. It's really quick.
So you just threw out a number there. Like, what are the tides we're talking about here? Because a lot of people who aren't from here just can't begin to fathom the crazy tides that we have in the Bay of Fundy.
Well, it's really cool. So in our area, or where we do this dinner, it can reach upwards of, I think it was 28 feet, for example. So when we're kayaking in the middle of the day, while this is kind of being done, we can tell the people that we're in the boats with, okay, 20 feet below you right now is where we're going to be having dinner in
That's awesome.
6 hours. You know what I mean? So it's like, and logistically, it was super challenging. And so we're getting the gear up the beach, and then we come back in with our boat and do multiple trips between the caves and the harbor to get everything out of the tides before everything is just absolutely swept away. And I remember last year it was pitch black at night, because it's 12 o'clock at night it was how it worked in terms of like the dinner time and the tides, because we don't have to have the lowest low at a dinner time. So we're out there at 12 o'clock at night, pitch black, headlamps, taking apart tables, watching the tide come higher and higher. And I'm in a wetsuit or whatever it was, trying to take apart tables, waiting for that boat light to come around the corner again, going, oh my God, I'm going to go for a swim. But it was, I think that opened you said that's when you really started following what we were doing. And that, I think, was a really cool opportunity to open the eyes of a lot of people for what we do culinary wise. Because then it wasn't too many months after that we were working with Really Local on an event in Moncton, where we had 4 chefs serving 100 people at Fort Beauséjour in this old Acadian fort, just doing stuff out there. The logistics for that wasn't as challenging, but it was still just really cool to say, this is what we like to do. This is wilderness catering. It's really good food in really hard to reach places for a lot of people, and it's really fun.
Yeah, no, really that's fun. Crazy. So say you have does everyone come in by kayak, or do some people come in via Zodiac or whatever?
No, to that dining experience, people come in on foot. So there's enough tide that has come down in enough time where, as it's coming down still, we're able to get people in by foot, and helping them out. There is some slippery rock. We actually built portable stairways to go over some of the more challenging parts of the rock that we brought in and took out for people. Huge, like 12-foot stairway.
The rocks are completely covered with like this crazy slippery kelp or algae or whatever.
Yeah. It's there's some path sometimes depending on how many people have gone through, but it is truly like not a. I think when I sent out the email to people who were coming to that was like, don't wear your high heels, don't wear your best dining shoes. Yeah. You need something with tread. This is an outdoor experience. You're going to get sand, you're going to get water, but it's all going to be worth it. And the chef that we have is an absolute character, and he just brings everyone into the whole process. And it's really fun. It's exciting. And it's definitely different. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I remember showing Alyssa, it's like, man, when we're, right now we have 202, so things are a little bit busy for us, but when we have a chance, we've got to come down and experience that, because it's just, I mean, the food alone, the crazy spread that you guys show, and then juxtaposed in the ocean, basically. I mean, it's out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, like you said, people can walk in, but every 12 hours, it's completely cut off from everything and underwater.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, the tide itself is a bit of a double-edged sword. It's why people come to the area, because it's amazing. It's world highest tides, this, that. But at the same time, some days I just would love to be a kayak guide in New Zealand who has a 9 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m. kayak, and that's their day. And it's not, the hours that they work aren't tide dependent, and they can just go about their normal work day. But I don't know. That's just not as exciting.
yeah, because it's shifting all the time, right? Like the high tide is what does it change by half an hour every day, or?
Yeah, just about half an hour to an hour, depending on the day, and depending. I mean, if you want to get into the science of it, depending on the moon cycle and things like that, is how high you can have high tides and high tides depending on the moon cycle. So it's not a perfect 6 hours. It's about 6 hours, 15 minutes, 6 hours to 25 minutes, depending. And so, yeah,
you have it pretty dialed in there, right?
Yeah, by now, yes. Most of the time. Sometimes it throws us for a loop, and we're just like, what happened? What were we thinking? But you're kind of at the will of nature here. So, I mean, if you were to look at my schedule of kayaking, for example, we'll have an 8:30, then a 9, a 10, a 10. Like, it all moves down later and later in the day until it comes back up to super early in the morning, because we're just now on a morning cycle. Right. So it is, I mean, even the stuff that should be easy, going out for a little boat cruise, a 2-hour boat cruise, logistically is a challenge in the area because of
that's
the tide.
So cool.
Yeah.
So where did this idea come from? Like it's you guys have done it now. You've nearly been, had to swim to shore after cleaning up, a couple of times. And I'm sure there's some other interesting stories about stuff getting lost or overboard and stuff. Like let's touch on how you get that table out there.
Well, the table was built by the father of one of the owners, who he also happens to be our, he's our in-house carpenter. He's our boat captain. He's our, table maker. He's our local, HR representative. He's a guy with a lot of hats. He built it piece by piece, and he built it in such a way where you take this 24-foot table, and I think it's 3 sections. Yeah, 3 sections of 8. But the tabletop comes off of the legs, and then the benches that run along it are all cedar and stained and absolutely gorgeous. But he made it in such a way that we can take it apart and get it on the Zodiac we use for our cruises, our scenic boat tours. Yeah. And so we take it in almost piece by piece. Okay. We did have an idea where if that wasn't possible, we would lower it over a cliff, basically be rappelling with these table pieces. And we tried that. And then we tried, doing it so we could take it up the cliff as well. And we're going to be having to do that this year for part of it, because it's a back-to-back thing. So it's the idea we have right now is, instead of transporting it back out and then bringing it back, is actually suspend it cliffside. Okay. And because it's the same area. Yeah, it's again, it's insane. But so that's how we get that in. Myself and a couple of, we rappel in with gear as well over the cliff. We've dangled photographers so they could get, the shot that they want. We've, in 2019, one of the sous chefs, the wife of Chef Bosse, we left her in a cave by accident. She was supposed to be in another cave, but she couldn't get around because the tide was still up. Yeah. So we had to basically pull her. Well, she did a lot of work herself walking up, but we had to pull her cliffside to get her around in time to meet the guests. It's a lot of walkie talkies, a lot of yelling, and then a lot of big smiles when people come around a corner.
Man, that just, so basically, I mean, you said at the beginning there that your parents would probably have said, or any sane parents would probably say, you can't make money at this, but you're literally making your living dangling off cliffs, rescuing people that have been left behind in caves, etc.
I consider myself extremely lucky.
That's awesome.
And my parents, they're proud, but I'm sure at first when I left the safety of an engineering job, I probably didn't convince them that it was a good decision till maybe 2 years in, and then they started to see all this cool stuff and that I was, living in a home,
You were homeless or living in a
car, still had a stable relationship that they were like, okay, like this can work, and now that they're extremely supportive. But my partner at the time, my now wife, she's a really strong individual when it comes to things like business, finances, all that kind of stuff. She's really driven, and she was probably, for me, the most important person to convince, but also the most difficult person to convince. She doesn't let anything just fly easy like that, which has taught me to be a better worker anyway, because the decisions I make are really much more well thought out than the decisions I would have made 10 years ago, 9 years ago, because she's the person that will question, well, what about this? Do you think about this? What's the plan here and here? And that actually has probably, having that kind of support system has really made this possible. And awesome. I owe a lot of it to her and her support and her driven, she was just as concerned as anyone else, right? Because she's like, well, what's this guy doing? Like,
how long will I have to
so good? Like, it was all going to work out. And now he wants to kayak as a job. And it's just like, there's more than that. But, it's definitely helpful to have someone so supportive on your team when you're doing something like this. And now she loves it. She thinks it's super cool. We're doing cool stuff. She's still learning every day about the different stuff that we do and how we do it. And because we're very different in that way, I like to describe her as an indoor cat. So this kind of job completely blows her mind. Yeah. I know one time I was teaching a canoe course, and I was telling her, saying goodbye in the morning. And she was like, "You're doing what?" And I said, "I'm teaching canoeing." She goes, "Do you canoe?" And I said, yeah, canoe. And she's like, "That's crazy." And I was like, "Crazy? Yeah, you can't believe I'm getting paid to do that?" And she's like, "No, like you couldn't pay me enough."
That's so funny.
So it's differences there, but this kind of lifestyle definitely needs a strong support system.
Well, and I think that's a really good catch, or a really good fit for you guys to, for her to be so supportive of something that she's not even familiar with, which is really cool.
Yeah, and again, it took a lot of convincing, and I think you mentioned a good word that you mentioned before we started live was sales. It was an extended, long sales pitch, but making it work every day now, and it was a little scary when COVID happened, and you're a tourism company, especially a tourism company that works a lot with international, Americans. The Germans love New Brunswick. They come over, China, Europe. So it was a challenge, but I think we've been able to pivot into some desk jobs in the off season, as well as kind of just prepare more thoughtfully in 2020 for what we were going to do. That we're doing just fine.
That's awesome. That's exciting. Yeah, I was going to touch on that. What did you obviously pivoted into the consulting a little bit over the winter, which is a cool networking thing and a cool kind of way to keep yourself immersed in the space. What did you guys end up doing over the summer last year?
Well, the summer was difficult because we work a lot with GNB. Or Government New Brunswick in the tourism department, and we just tried to our first thing was to just kind of maintain a positive environment. Like, we understand that not everyone is in the same boat, but more in the same storm. And so we were just kind of, it is what it's going to be. We're going to take it positive day by day and just maintain an environment for ourselves and other people that we're going to work to make this okay. And basically, it was difficult to get answers last year on what the season was going to look like, who was coming to New Brunswick. and what were they looking to do? Are they looking to do group adventure events or not? Unfortunately, we had to just not bring as many employees on last year.
Mm-hmm.
We cut a lot of our multi-day stuff because it just wasn't possible to have multiple people, at a camp or in a hotel or an inn or travel together in a bus or boat. So a lot of that got cut. And so it was kind of like it was odd that we just kind of had to shift everything to our day adventure, concentrate on that. But the guys that I do work with and my business partners, they were really phenomenal in kind of understanding what the business needed to not only survive, but continue to grow and just be excited for 2021 and even more so in 2022. So it comes down to those people around me that have just been really phenomenal and supportive and really good business partners.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see if you're already planning out 2022. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, how can people find you? I know you guys had a giveaway. Are you still running the giveaway?
We announced the winners on Friday, which was that was exciting. That was actually the first giveaway we've ever run. Learned some lessons, some interesting things about doing an online, contest like that. Not something I'm going to stray away from, but something, to be a little more careful. But I think, for example, people copying businesses to then try to get personal information, that's not
I see that happens so often.
Yeah. And how do you avoid it? It's just people that's their job. And as passionate as I am about, taking people outdoors, they're just as passionate as getting people's information. So we announced that.
I think I saw a couple pop up, and I think I got friended by a couple of them.
I did too.
Yeah.
Red Rock Adventure asked to be my friend and told me that I won. And I was like, wow, good for me.
That's awesome. I see a lot of, once something gets traction, one of my clients, they were doing a giveaway, and there were like 3 accounts that popped up, and everybody was winners everywhere. But it's it's kind of the sticky part of it. I see a lot of people who, are public figures. There's a lot of accounts that are named after them, and they'll even use the same picture and everything. And they say flattery is the best compliment, but it can get a little bit dicey for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is what we were pretty happy in the end with our response time and getting things shut down. But certainly there was a few people that got some friend requests. Yes, we ran that. That's really, but that's the winners were announced, and I'm happy for them. We also you can find us on Facebook and Instagram, Red Rock Adventure, and on our website, Bay of Fundy adventures.com, FUNDY. We have everything on our site there that we do. We've still got more to add this year, especially now that we're rolling into, we're doing more experiential education, Paddle Canada courses for kids, nice. Outdoor stuff. Our culinary stuff is coming back out now that we can kind of, people are getting more used to the rules and regulations. And then so is our multi-day. We're already advertising and booking for multi-day stuff, which is really exciting for us, at least, to get back out there and kind of do what we really like to do.
That's awesome. Is that a hat behind you there on the desk?
It is. Yeah. Do you need one of these?
Well, you can see I have on the other side here.
Yeah.
I would love one because I think if you show it to the camera for those that'll be on YouTube and that are here live with us. Just show it there.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, this is one of our logos. This is actually the logo is really cool. It's from it's inspired by a place called Sealy Beach, which is on the Fundy footpath. It's one of the first beaches we go to, and it's one of the most beautiful views you can get in the. I mean, I might be a little biased, but it's one of the most beautiful views you can get in the whole province, and it's where we do a lot of our culinary stuff. It's where we camp on the first night on the Fundy footpath. It's really a really special and accessible spot.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's kind of, I reached out over the giveaway and then we got chatting and that's how we ended up here. But
yeah,
you got to get those online because it's a nice piece of kit and I think people will enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I look at businesses like Blue Crocus and what they do, and I'm learning the whole marketing side of everything, the SEO side, and learning all that. And yeah, one of the things, looking at what these businesses do and trying to learn from that, and an online e-store and things like that, and getting customers closer to a sale online. Like, it's a really interesting new thing for me personally to use to learn. And so that's, yeah, you're right. 100%. We got to get our stuff online to sell. Yeah.
No, and I mean, I'd love to snag one here. Get it up there. Got to put one on the hat wall there. So.
Yeah, sounds good.
Got to represent. We can figure that out. But no, that's exciting, Jordan. It's been really cool to watch your journey from where I knew you as an engineering student, and that's how we met, to now running an awesome business that's just spreading the word, and wanted to come on and tell people about that and all of that. But if we can wrap up with kind of your business experience, because obviously COVID was something crazy that happened, and kind of threw you for a loop. But what's one big lesson, one big takeaway that you would say or give to someone who's starting out in business or has been in business for a while, but something that's really kind of helped you to push the envelope, helped you to stay focused, stay consistent?
I think the biggest thing I'd have to, and hopefully, probably, maybe my business partners would say the same thing, is don't be afraid to surround yourself with people who their strengths are your weaknesses. Don't be afraid to not be able to do all of it yourself. I think reaching out to experienced people, I think respecting people's experience and time in a certain industry is something that for sure is valuable, especially to new or young or any kind of entrepreneurs. I think, again, fortunately, surrounding myself with people with good support. I think the 3 business owners of Red Rock Adventure have different strengths. And I think that's why we're able to challenge ourselves so consistently. And, even if we don't think we can, we come out looking pretty good, coming out on top, doing an event that, maybe a year previous didn't think we could do. But that's because we are able to lean on each other and trust each other enough to do different things. And I don't know, something I'm still learning myself is, strong delegation, trusting others to do the job. When, I've got a huge, I guess you'd call it a red or gold personality, where if I give a job, I'm like, got to look over a shoulder, maybe tweak it myself while it's still being developed. Giving other people the chance to impress you or do good work for you is definitely something that I'd recommend as well. And, my business partners back when I came in gave me that chance. So I'm just now learning to do the same for others as well.
That's awesome. Those are some nuggets. I would say delegation is the thing I need to do the most, and probably the thing I find the hardest. Yeah, getting processes in place for me and making sure that, it's not just all in my head, because I know everything that we do, but having it down on paper so that they can, kind of take it and make it their own.
Yeah.
Well, Jordan, this has been awesome. This has been really fun.
Yeah, it's great catching up, and I hope to see you and the 2-year-old and everyone, the whole family, out in St. Martin's this summer.
We'll have to make a trip down. Yeah, no, yeah. I'll put a bug in Alyssa's ear, because I know we've got a few camping trips planned, and we'd love to stop down there for sure. I'm just going to go through the comments here. Scott, I think this comment popped in when we were talking about hiking and stuff. Nothing like sitting on a summit. And he loved you as the guest, which is exciting.
Oh, thanks.
And,
thank you very much. Yeah.
And Ryan's calling out. This is Ryan Austin's hat, Birmingham Seal Coat. So.
Okay, there we go.
No, this has been really good. And guys, I'd recommend checking out what Jordan's up to. You may know someone. I know I've had 2 culinary guests on back to back. It just kind of happened that way with the scheduling, which is kind of funny. The last couple of days I've just been hungry for fine dining.
Yeah.
So I've got
Rivers was a fantastic guest. He seems really interesting, and I can't believe we haven't run into each other yet. But I think because of your podcast, he might get an email or something from me in the near future.
If you need, I'll connect you guys.
Fantastic.
We can chat out details off air, but yeah, definitely. He was great. You've been fantastic. I love following your stuff. Go give Jordan and co a follow on all the socials and check out what they're doing on their website, because it's a gem of New Brunswick that needs to be shown more. So Jordan, with that, absolute honor to have you on. Really appreciate it, and we'll wrap up off air here.
Thank you very much, Lewis. It was really cool talking to you and catching up.
Absolutely. All right, hang tight there. I'll be with you in a second.
Sounds good.